however horrific, it is but a minor blip within the powers that be overall perception of the universe and where they rule it from.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So I'm just saying it's rather curious. There's something that is frightening to them. It may be the idea that the Internet will reach a point of critical mass, and in a critical mass people will become aware and just not put up with the crap anymore. Or it may be that there's some kind of an exogenic event in the sense of, the alignment with the galactic center, or, incoming meteorites, or who knows. But we also have a preponderance of evidence that suggests that the two are intertwined, in the sense that it's probably no coincidence at a universal level that the Internet growth has been so spectacular, and we're also at this same point entering a region of uncharted energies and effects on our solar system.
Which means effects on every person.
Correct.
Doing that. And is that the heliosphere phenomena, that
the recent loss of that,
yes,
in October, yeah.
There's a lot of fear about that, but it can be a very good thing.
It certainly can be. It appears to be a completion of a 30 million year cycle and maybe even a 64 million year cycle. Unfortunately, both of those seem to correlate to extinctions, but then again, also the rise of new species. There's also the other more minor 100,000 year, 26,000 year, 13,000 year, and 5,115 year cycle completions all happening at the same time. Personally, I'm of the opinion that the unknown energies from space that we put in our space goat farts entity, which reference those things that are officially denied, as well as those things that we simply don't understand and have no concept of, but we have some vague hint that they might be there, such as dark matter a few years ago was just sort of a noodle in a few astrophysicists' minds, and wasn't really any kind of a proven fact or any of this sort of a deal. Not that I'm saying it is at this point. I think they're wrong in their judgments, but that's neither here nor there. The general academia accepts it as being quantifiable, that they can produce some form of dark matter assessment. But the issue may really be that the unknown energies from space are going to be much more changing in the whole of our infrastructure as well as humans, and that may be what's driving the powers that be at the moment in terms of their fear quotients.
Right, because it's something beyond their control, which has to kind of make them crazy, I would think.
I would believe that's the case as well.
Like, let's say it's the huge solar flare that knocks out all the electronics. That can't be good for them either.
I don't know about that, because presumably the underground installations, anything with appropriate shielding, would be effectively okay and be able to run. However, their control mechanisms break down, so I grant you that's the case. But I'm thinking about those types of energies that perhaps go to a deeper level of things. There's this philosopher Gurdjieff. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sure. He has this concept of the sololuneus,
yes,
which is that the periodicity of sun activity can be correlated to basically mass outbreaks of hysteria, war, and other troubles here on the planet. And he may have something. There may be something in his thinking there at a scientific level. There may actually be energies that come on down, for instance, and zap all of our pineal glands, and we all get really, really angry and start things like, the invading hordes that take down the Roman Empire or the Mongolian migration. I understand that there's actually other causes for those, but I'm saying that those are coincident with certain solar activities as well.
Well, everything is thought and energy. And, of course, it's going to affect us. But here again, it's how we receive it and interpret that predicts how it will affect.
I would agree with you there, yes.
Mm.
And so in that sense, that gets back to the point of the universe may have actually had intention in the unfolding of time such that just at this point where we're en masse being hit as humans, as omni-humanity on this planet, with this strange new energy from space, that we also have in the background the explosive growth of the Internet and the sharing of knowledge, such that perhaps a lot more people will be aware that this is the potential of what's going on and won't react to it the way that we might have without that information.
Yes. And just in case any new listeners have never heard of Clif and the Webbot Future Viewing Project. You can go to the archives with them and then just, go to halfpasthuman.com. You find out more about it. And some of the things you've heard are the very colorful names that the Webbot project has for groups of what you call entities, but you have amazingly delineated them so brilliantly.
Well, I don't know about that, and I'm always opposed to reductionism as an approach to dealing with the universe, but we had to have some method of corralling all of these little critters in our visual model space, and of course, being humans, we label them. So, off we go.
Well, they're fun.
Yeah, that's true. Like I say, you got to have a sense of humor about all of this, yeah.
What?
Otherwise, there's that stampede,
Right. Oh, we're at a break already. Whoa. All right, let's take a break. This is Beyond the Ordinary with Clif at halfpasthuman.com, Adventures in Future Viewing.
We are Beyond the Ordinary with Beyond the Ordinary Clif at halfpasthuman.com. And let's get an update on the twin earthquake
non-event.
Non-event that...
it actually was an event.
Yeah.
There.
The issue for us is the following, that we had a situation where we had language building around twin earthquakes repeatedly, and that did manifest pretty much globally, almost within, I think we're about 15 days off, really, in terms of time, and I understand why now. I can get into that in a second, but around the twin earthquakes, we had language that indicated isolation and tough times up here in the Pacific Northwest. And so it was our monkey minds that said, earthquakes and isolation in the Pacific Northwest, a known geoactive region. Aha, let's put the two together, and what do we get? Well, we get an earthquake that causes isolation up here. Now, curiously, and coincidentally, we had one of the roughest pre-winter storms in, I don't know, maybe several hundred years up here, got dumped on with the snow. The Pacific Northwest was isolated. We had all kinds of people without power and all the usual results, none of which was due to an earthquake. But simultaneous to that, we had twin earthquakes in San Diego. We had twin earthquakes in Papua New Guinea. We had twin earthquakes referenced in China. And we had twin earthquakes referenced in the local papers in Latin America. And so at that point, we were actually seeing some of the language fulfilled, not the damage levels. Those are still pending, although I think they're probably just a misreading on our part. But nonetheless, there's some of the earthquake fellows that are saying this was one of the most curious patterns they'd ever seen. Not just merely the association of all these twin quakes, but also in the overall pattern of how we had a period of quiescence, then this little rush of all these earthquakes, which even continues to this point. And at the same time that all of this was going on, we had the dancing mountain, although it's the reverse, it was the quivering at Yellowstone. And so we've got, also at Mammoth, we've gotten a very strange pattern of earthquake swarms there that are very definitely odd. So a lot of the linguistics have played out, just not the way that we anticipated. Now, as to the timing on it, the 10th, 11th, and 12th, which is when we thought the earthquakes were going to happen, curiously turned out to be the point at which we had a peak of incoming gamma ray bursts. Gamma ray bursts have been repeatedly in the popular press, if not the academic, hidebound, peer-reviewed, group-constrained think, have been associated with earthquakes. And usually there's about a 14-day period from the onset of the GRBs to the actual quakes. That held true at this point, and the GRBs came in on the 10th, 11th, and 12th. So we were actually off by about 15 days from the geoactive period peak, but nonetheless, within, I would say probably 30% of the linguistics being satisfied within those first few days. Now, this gets back to also to George Ur's interpretation, where he said, well, we had all this earthquake language that showed up in the popular press, but it was around Madoff's scandal. And he's quite correct. We did see all of that kind of language show up after shocks, and they kept repeatedly using terms, sending shock waves, temblors through the financial markets and through the charity markets and so on. So we got a lot of that linguistics there. In that sense, then, the interpretation was just way off. The linguistics happily obliged and showed up as forecast. We just didn't have a clue ahead of time how they would all be related. And thus comes to the real nexus of our work, which is to always try and fine-tune such that we get feedback like this, oh, okay, this was basically a failure, but at the same time we succeeded within these small parts of predicting some of the language that showed up. Again, though, we misinterpreted it. So next time, we're going to see if we can't have these relationships a little bit better defined. Sort of makes sense?
Oh, very much.
Totally. And isn't it really gives a beautiful picture, because you are actually basing the information coming in for these predictions on what we are, every single